A fisherman named Syracuse is pulling up his nets when he finds a woman tangled in them. At first, he thinks she's dead, but then he realizes she's still alive. He quickly gets her out, gives her mouth-to-mouth, and helps her spit out the water from her lungs. Syracuse tells her that she's okay, but she's shocked, saying she thought she was dead. He wraps a blanket around her and says he'll take her to a hospital. She refuses, claiming she's fine and doesn't need a doctor. Syracuse insists that after nearly drowning, she should see a doctor, but she's determined not to go. As another boat approaches, she hides, not wanting anyone to see her. Syracuse asks for her name, but she says she can't remember, making him think she might have lost her memory after hitting her head. Syracuse introduces himself, explaining that people call him Circus, as a joke about being a clown. Understanding that she wants to stay hidden, he takes her to his late mother's old, empty house in a quiet area. He offers her his lunch and asks if she'll be okay alone, as he has something urgent to attend to. She assures Syracuse that she'll be fine, which surprises him, but he leaves anyway. He heads over to his ex-wife's house to pick up his daughter, Annie, for her dialysis appointment. Annie is disabled, so he carefully carries her around. As they drive, Syracuse asks Annie if anything strange or wonderful has happened to her recently. Annie wonders why he always asks this, and he explains that he's always hoping for something magical to happen. While Annie undergoes dialysis, she asks Syracuse to tell her a story. So he begins telling her about a fisherman who found a woman in his net. Curious, Annie asks what kind of creature the woman was. Confused, Syracuse asks what she means. Annie wonders if the woman was a mermaid or a selkie, but Syracuse says he's not sure. Afterward, he gets Annie an automatic wheelchair to help her move around more easily. When they return home, his ex-wife informs Syracuse that Annie needs a kidney transplant, but the doctors still haven't found a match. Feeling troubled, Syracuse goes back to the mysterious woman, surprised to see she's still there. The woman asks why he's shocked, and he admits that he half thought she was just a dream. As he prepares to fish, the woman asks if she can join him. At first, he insists that it's bad luck to have a woman on a fishing boat, but then he changes his mind and lets her come along. However, as usual, Syracuse struggles to catch any fish. He asks the woman if she remembers her name now, and she replies that he can call her Ondine. Confused, he asks what it means, and she explains that it's the name of a woman who came from the sea. Suddenly, she starts singing a beautiful, mysterious song in a language he doesn't recognize. As she sings, Syracuse pulls up his fishing cage and is surprised to see that he's caught a few lobsters. He finds it strange. He tosses another cage into the water, but this time it comes up empty. Curious, he asks Ondine to sing again. As she sings, he throws the cage back in, and this time it comes up full of lobsters. He starts to believe she might bring him good luck. He then shows her how to tie the lobster's claws. Ondine asks if he usually catches this many lobsters, and Syracuse admits that it almost never happens. With a grin, he tells her that they'll go to town to sell the catch, and she'll get her share for singing. But Ondine refuses, saying she doesn't want to be seen by others. Syracuse points out that he has seen her, but she insists that he's the only one allowed to. So, Syracuse goes alone, sells the lobsters, and with the money, buys a dress for Ondine. He even sneaks a few pieces of women's underwear for her. He visits Annie at school and continues the story he started during her dialysis. He tells her that the woman from the sea sings in a strange language that attracts lobsters, making it easy for fishermen to catch them. Annie confidently says that the woman must be a selkie. Annie explains that selkies are mythical creatures that are half woman, half seal, and they shed their seal skin when they come on land. She adds that the woman's song is actually a way to communicate with sea creatures. She then asks who the fisherman in the story is, and Syracuse admits that it's him. He insists he made up the story for her, but Annie isn't convinced and secretly follows him as he drives away. Syracuse arrives at his mother's old house and finds Ondine trying on a pair of his mother's shoes. She struggles to tie the laces, which surprises him. Syracuse then gives her the dress he bought, and she kisses him to show her gratitude. He asks how long she plans to stay, and she replies that it depends on him. Syracuse says that if it's up to him, she can stay forever. Meanwhile, Annie watches everything from a distance. Determined to uncover the truth, she decides to read more about selkies to understand what's really going on. Syracuse goes to a church to make a confession. He tells the priest that he's an alcoholic, but he's been sober for over 2 years now. However, his wife still drinks, and he wants to get custody of his daughter. The priest offers to connect them with a counselor, but Syracuse isn't interested. Syracuse also admits that he stole some women's underwear. The priest is taken aback, saying he doesn't like where this is going. Syracuse quickly explains that it's not what it seems and starts telling him about Ondine, but he refuses to reveal where she is staying. The priest asks Syracuse to keep him updated about the situation. Meanwhile, Ondine tries on the underwear, but decides not to wear it for her swim. As she comes out of the water, she's surprised to see Annie watching her. Annie confidently says that she knew her dad's story was real, and that Ondine is a true Selkie. Ondine then realizes that Annie is Syracuse's daughter. Annie eagerly asks if Ondine has magical powers, and if she can heal her. Ondine is confused and asks what's wrong, and Annie reveals that she has kidney failure. Noticing that Ondine looks cold, Annie explains that it's because Selkies belong underwater. Ondine tries to deny being a Selkie, but Annie insists that she's done her research and wants them to be honest with each other. Ondine explains that Selkies can live on land for 7 years if they bury their seal coats there, and during that time, they will shed 7 tears. However, after those 7 years, they might find unexpected happiness with a human. As Annie gets ready to leave, Ondine kisses her and says she hopes to see her again. Annie notices that her cheek is wet and realizes drugs are hidden. Joanna leads them to the burial spot, but to her shock, the drugs have been moved. Annie admits that she moved the seal coat because she didn't want anyone to find it, fearing that it would mean Joanna would have to leave. Joanna promises that she will stay if Annie reveals where the coat is. Annie finally confesses that she hid it in the lobster pot. They all head to the boat, and as Vladich starts pulling up the lobster pot, Joanna uses the rope beneath him to knock both Vladich and his accomplice into the water. Neither of them can swim, and they tragically drown. The police soon arrive and take Joanna into custody, while Syracuse and Annie head home. Later, Syracuse goes back to the church to confess. He tells the priest that Joanna is facing a judge next week and, as a non-national, she will be deported unless she can become a citizen, which would require someone to marry her. The priest gives a knowing smile and asks who might do that. Soon after, Annie helps Joanna into her wedding dress, while Syracuse puts on a fancy suit. The three board the boat and sail toward the wedding ceremony. All the fishermen in town watch as Syracuse kisses his beautiful sea bride-to-be. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this.